And 3, 2, 1. What is going on, everybody? It's your boy, the Lo-Fi Horror Guy. Welcome, excuse me, welcome to another episode of the Lo-Fi Horror Guys Growing on You Live. And today I am going to be joined by the drummer of one of my favorite hardcore bands of all time. I cannot even hold it in. Mr. Todd Friend of H2O is going to be on the show here, and I am so stoked. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Todd!
How you doing?
What's going on, man?
Trying to set this thing up so it doesn't fall over.
All right. Well, I mean, if it does, it does. It's not a huge deal. We'll get through it. All right, man. So basically, if you haven't seen the show before, I started out with a couple of just little icebreaker questions, and then we get into some more individualized stuff to you and your craft, and then we end it all off with an ending segment that I made specially for Todd Friend.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be fun though. It's gonna be fun, stress free. That's
right off the whole. Yep.
So right off the bat. Well, first of all, how are you doing this morning, man? And thank you very much for being on the show.
Good, thank you. I just had a huge pint-sized iced coffee, and just listening to some music and just kind of hanging and a little stretching and morning stretching. That's about it. Usual for about 100 days now. That's pretty much been the story. Not quite, but you know it is.
Okay. All right. So right off the top of your head, if you can hit me with a dream side project with 4 others, dead or alive, who would be in your band?
Wow. What kind of music are we talking about?
You know, of your choosing, man. If it's easier to go with hardcore, boom. If we have to go with a little 70s jazz fusion, boom. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good question. I never thought of that. You know what? I was listening to Black Sabbath, so I'd like Geezer Butler on bass.
Oh, yeah.
Andy Sumner is on guitar.
Okay.
The mix of that.
Yeah. It'd be interesting.
Wow. And Roddy Bottum from Faith No More on keyboards.
Oh man.
You know, and then on second guitar. Wow, that's a good. Second guitar, probably Kim Thyro from Soundgarden, or Pete from Sick of It All.
Oh,
okay. Something way off, you know.
Okay. That I could only imagine a band like that.
You can tell what I've been listening to this morning, right? Like, I have my stuff on shuffle, so I'm just going from, you know, new wave to Black Sabbath to like way out there samba stuff. So sure. I've been listening to pretty much everything.
Sick, yeah. I mean, and you mentioned Sick of It All too, and you know, it's like for me, my earlier experiences with hardcore, and not even at the time realizing it was hardcore at first, was H2O, Sick of It All, you know, Madball. So it's you know, those bands, especially you guys playing shows together too, just blow my mind. Just amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
So now, if you could, if you know, your drum sponsor came up, they said, Todd, we're gonna make a Todd Friend custom snare drum just for you. What are you making? What size are we going? Are we doing some colors? Are we gonna have, you know, just tons of vent holes all over it? What are we gonna do for a custom snare from Todd Friend?
So I would definitely want something like a real thick maple shell or even birch. Mm-hmm. I've had the option from pork pie. I've been using pork pie stuff since 1999. Mm-hmm. I have a custom kit that's probably about, since I take it on tour since 1999, but it's in really good shape. Like it looks still new. It's got a couple little dents in it, but it has like a natural blue finish. With pork pie, I can kind of just tell them what I want and get it. So I would probably say something like birchy or like a real thick maple. And but with a sparkly blue this time, you know, something different, and maybe put lights on it, You know, why not, right? Or even put water in it and have fish swimming around in it. You know, I don't know how long they would last. I mean, H2O kind of things, but that'd be
Right.
something. I do need. I Our last tour before everything, the world changed basically, was
Uh-huh.
in Europe in January. We did the Persistence tour. It was one of our best, funnest, amazing tours
Mhm.
before all the pandemic hit. And my snare at the end of that tour, I've worked on it a little bit since we've been off, but it definitely has some stuff going on and on the insides. Some hoops need to be tight, some screws need to be tightened up a little bit, and
Mhm.
the snares on the bottom, because I bring it over to Europe with me. The snares on the bottom are a little like not shot, but they need a little tune up, if you say, you know.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say your snare is very quickly starting to sound like an acrylic custom there with the fish and everything.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I tried it. It's a 6.5 by 14, but I try to tune it a little bit higher than that, just to give it like a little pop. And I recently switched to an Evans dot on the bottom. I used to use Remo, I still do, but the Evans head, I like the way it lasts and it cuts a little different.
Hmm.
Like Evans also makes like I forgot the name of it, but like a really thick head, but you have to crank it. And I use that for a little bit, but I found that this other one kind of sits somewhere in between, like a controlled sound Remo and the real thick Evans one. I can't think of the name of it, but I think it's like acrylic or something, or not acrylic, but
Okay.
it's the thickest snare drum head you can have.
Is
And
it
this
actually
one,
a resonant head or is it a batter?
it's not a battery head. It's like, oh man. Oh wait, I may have it here. No, I got a bunch of heads. The Remo CS series is the one I'm thinking of,
Okay.
but it's somewhere in between that. But I used that about 3 or 4 years ago. But I like the one that I've been using. The Evans head sits somewhere in between all those.
Okay.
Uh, but
Sick.
yeah, I mean, I try to mix it up certain tours too. But I need something that'll last. Like I used to
Mm.
use just a flat, straight up Remo Emperor head or a straight up Remo Ambassador, but they would start bending and cracking, and I can't bring those on tour anymore.
Oh, okay. Okay. I mean, is
Especially
it
we'll do like 14, 20, 15, 20 shows in a row, and I'll
right?
change it maybe every 5 or 7 shows. And but before I'd have to crank it up every other show because it would just start denting in, and I have to change it more often. But now I don't. Like maybe once a tour I'll change it. You know.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's what I was gonna ask was about how many days do you change it, but you just said about 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's some. I think Armand from Sickwell uses this head I was talking about, but those snares will last a whole tour because they're so thick.
They
Whereas,
better with whatever he's playing, they
yeah,
better last.
yeah, totally, totally.
Dear
we were
Lord.
actually we were, we were actually on tour with Luke in January, who you just had on before me, and
Uh-huh.
it was Gorilla Biscuits, Agnostic Front, Street Dogs, Wisdom and Chains.
Yeah.
It was a really fun tour. It was like 12 or 13 shows, maybe 12 shows,
Okay.
and we were going to continue touring with Gorilla Biscuits in late March and early April. We were supposed to go to um, Sacramento, San Francisco, Orange County, Denver, and Berkeley Square.
Oh.
And I think we were the place, but we had like a whole run with them. That obviously, when the pandemic hit, everything changed, and we're hoping to do it later this year, but who knows at this point, you know. But we
Right.
were hoping to continue the touring with Gorilla Biscuits, and then everything changed like everything else.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was a bummer too, because then like Sick of It
Yeah,
All was going to be going out with Agnostic
I know,
Front,
I
and so
know, I
like
know, I know. I saw that. I know.
there was some
They were
runs
gonna
that
do
got
like a
canceled
whole.
that were a
I
bummer.
know. They were gonna do like a whole run, like
Yeah.
those guys together and us together. We were gonna. they had a longer run. I think theirs was like 3 or 4 weeks, I think.
Okay.
And ours was just about 8 shows. But then we had other shows, New York and Jersey. We had uh, Garwood, New Jersey. We had a New York City show. There's a place called Crossroads out in Garwood, New Jersey. That it's like a 250, 300 cap club that we were going to play, and that got canceled, and like everything else.
Right. Now, do you, at this stage, I mean, so many years later of being in the band,
Yep.
at this stage, do you prefer, kind of like the 15, 20 show runs as far as, as opposed to months on end and then coming home, and do you find you get a little bit of a different energy from that?
I I'm somewhere in the middle of that. Like we did 22 in a row in Europe last summer
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of a heat wave.
Yeah. Like I remember seeing some of those pictures.
Yeah, we were down South Europe too, in Italy, and it was like 105. We played a venue, I can't remember the name of the town, but it was like 100 outside, and inside the venue there was no air conditioning. And I was dumping water over me like every couple songs to kind of cool off a little bit. My tour manager was dumping ice water on me. I encouraged it, but it was that was 22 in a row was like I can go either way with it, but I definitely, if we do 20 in a row, I maybe have like a day off in a cool city, 20 in a row. But then again, it's like we're at the home stretch of 20, so I prefer somewhere between 15 and 20 in a row. I mean, we used to do from 1995 to 2003. We were doing about 150 to 200 shows a year.
Okay.
But we would do an 8-week tour. But we would take like a day off every week to 10 days just to kind of refresh, have a day off in like Paris or, somewhere really nice, or in the States, we would have a day off at like a mall or somewhere with a lot of stuff to do. But now we don't do that long touring. Like we don't do 175 shows a year.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And we were kind of burnt a little bit like around 2003. I mean, we were a little fried, but we still did a little bit in 2003. But like as far as like length of tours, I think 20, 21, 3 weeks for us is like. I mean, we did do a lot in 2008 when Nothing to Prove came out too. We did a lot. Like probably, I would say that year alone, we maybe did 125, 130 shows that year. But as far as like, maybe 3 weeks, something like that.
Sure. Okay. And you're mentioning Nothing to Prove. I was going to get into this a little bit later, but you're mentioning 2008 Nothing to Prove.
Yep.
That was one of the records. I heard you guys' earlier stuff, and I was a fan of it. But then I remember the hype. I remember seeing the magazine ads for Nothing to Prove, and there was just thing after thing where I'm like, oh God, this is going to be so sick. I remember the day picking it up, the shop, all this stuff. Tell me about what your experience was when that album was coming out. As far as, I mean, because it came out, and I feel like that had to have given you guys like a whole new energy behind some of the times and just getting a little bit more worn out from tour and everything. And then having a new album come out and just be huge success.
So when we stopped touring manically, like 2003, like we did. I mean, basically our last tour before like we had a little time off, we did a tour, H2O, Boxcar Racer, and the Used. Really great tour, fun tour. Bigger venues than we would probably normally play on our own with Boxcar, with Travis and Tom from Blink. Sure. But on that record, towards the end of that, we started throwing around little ideas and stuff. I'll eventually get to Nothing Through. I'll try to squeeze it in, but squeeze it down. But like 2003, we took a little break from touring as far as like hard touring. We still did probably like 5 to 10 shows that whole year. But in the meantime, we started doing demos in Los Angeles, just to kind of see where we were at musically, and some of the stuff was different from we were trying different things, like not experimental, but just different type things, different rhythms, different guitar stuff. And we demoed it, and then we let it sit. Like, we were like 2003, and then Toby did Hazen Street. Tom Morris started playing with Juliet Lewis and the Licks. Everybody kind of started doing their own thing. It was like, for 2 years, we were kind of like writing music, but not like with the intention of putting it out yet.
Mm-hmm.
We were just writing, and then eventually, like 2005, we went to Europe. We did a Pennywise tour. We did a 30 Seconds to Mars tour, and they used. We just kept doing little tours, just kept active. We did Europe. We went to Japan with Madball, Sequidal, Cro-Mags, Murphy's Law, Sequidal. It was a big tour in Japan. And we got back from that summer of 2007. I'm kind of leading to Nothing to Prove, but
2007. I love it. Don't cut it.
2007, we met with Bridge 9. It was like the first step of making Nothing to Prove. We met with Bridge 9, and we were like, okay, we want to, focus on it and make a record. And by that point, we started playing 1995 on tour in Europe mostly in 2005. And we knew that song was going to be on the record. And then Adam came in with about three or four songs for Nothing to Prove. Nothing to Prove, Thin Line, and there was one other. Oh, Still Here. Okay. So me and him were demoing a lot, doing a lot, meeting in the studio in New York City and with Rusty, and then but then meanwhile we had and then What Happened started. We demoed that in 2006 in Los Angeles. It was just a completely different riff, than what ended up being on Nothing to Prove. Same riff, but different guitar rhythm parts. My drums were kind of the same. That was going to be on the record. It just needed a little work. So we were going to work with Chad, obviously, from Newfound Glory. Chad, and there was one other song. Sunday. Sunday was a completely different. It was similar to how it turned out to be with Sunday, but just different chorus, different. It was originally called "Pain in My Brain," and it kind of worked its way. Which when we had all those songs, and then the songs we demoed way back in 2003, those songs came in, and so we had about 11 songs for Nothing to Prove, and then we re-recorded Mitts, the song Mitts. My friend,
okay.
We re-recorded. I don't know if you ever heard it on All We Want EP. That was the last thing we did with MCA. It was called Static.
Okay.
And we did an EP after the major label full length. We did a major label EP, and it was a song called Static, and we kind of reworked it a little bit more punky. It was more. It had different rhythms than what was on Nothing to Prove. It was more like the verses would be halftime, but the chorus and the intros were all fast. Okay. When we redid it for Nothing to Prove, we just did everything fast. It was just, we're just gonna make it punk, like what we always do, Right. But it was fun working with Scrap 60 and working. It was really intense. It was fun to work with them because they pushed me as a drummer. Some of the stuff, I didn't know what they were kind of going for, but I kind of got it after I heard it later in the room, with Scrap 60, with the All We Want EP. But coming back to Nothing to Prove, we we reworked it, and then we came back with I guess about 3 songs from 2003, the demos that we did, and sound nothing like the demos that we did.
The original cuts.
Really different. Like it was really fun working with Chad too, because he challenged us as a band with structures that we hadn't at that point been challenged with structures since probably Matt Wallace. When we did the Go record, we just changed a lot of stuff around with Matt Wallace that we had, and that was fun working with Matt Wallace too. Like, he challenged us in different ways, but Chad, going back to Nothing to Prove, kind of reworked things, and we would play the first time the way he thought of it, and we'd be like, oh, that's weird, okay, I guess, yeah, okay, but then he was thinking more vocally too, like with the music and the way everything was structured. So January 2008 was when we started recording Nothing to Prove, and it was in the dead of winter. I mean, it was a cold New York winter, and Adam, Rusty, and I, we flew out to Los Angeles to record it, and Adam and I basically recorded our parts, but we hadn't heard anything vocally. Like, we heard maybe a couple ideas. The older stuff, like 1995, had already been played out. We kind of knew where that was going. But when we recorded our bass and drums, we flew out there, recorded them, and then we kind of went home. Like, we're like, okay, well, we're done with our parts. Okay. We had no idea what the record was going to turn into.
Right.
In a good way. We knew it was gonna be cool. We had we knew it was gonna be like, musically it was definitely gonna be what we wanted, but we had no idea what the vocals were gonna be like yet at that point. And then, like, about 3 weeks later, I get a call from Adam, and he's like, yo, have you heard any of the songs yet? I was like, no, I think I just got an email or on like a file or something. He's like, yo, check them out. Like, because we had no idea where it was going, and kind of just went from there. Like, we did a lot of we had a lot of interludes, shit talking in between songs.
Yeah.
Some of that was done in Los Angeles. Some of it was done on the phone. This was 2002 or 2008. I mean, sorry. Right. We had no idea where it was, going, but and it came out, May of 2008, and we were kind of out. Like, once the record came out, we were out for basically a year. Europe, we did Europe like 4 or 5 times. We went to Japan 2010, South America 2010. And we toured on that record for a good 2.5 years. Pretty straight. Not like we used to, but we were doing like, 2-week, 3-week tour, home for 2-3 weeks, back out again. We were kind of till the end of 2010. We were pretty busy, touring, and we still play, like, probably. I mean, last year or 2018. Sorry, the pandemic makes everything seem like so long ago. But 2018, the 10-year anniversary of Nothing Proof, we did a whole tour of that, and we did songs that we never did live on that run. Okay. But we played every song out on that record, but Thin Line. I think that's the only one we haven't played out. But we did we did the whole record front to back. But we've played it. We play a majority of the songs live too, from Nothing to Prove.
Okay, all right. As far as you and your craft with drumming, where what's your drum origin story? Where did it all start for you?
So, my dad used to play guitar in the 1960s. He was in bands in college and stuff, and he was in a band called The Shades that played around college campuses, and I saw pictures of him when I was a kid, like single digit kid, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then it came into my head, like, I like listening to drums. This is like single digit days. So Christmas of 1980, I got a kid's drum kit, And for about 4.5 years, I kind of just played the songs on the radio in my basement, and then when I was 14, I started playing in a band called Gas. My first band was Gas, and then my second band was Nerd
Okay.
Alert, like a parody of
What was
Nerds.
it?
Like Nerd Alert was my second band. Like
Okay.
1980s, there was a lot of like Revenge of the Nerds, and we
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
played like nerdy new wave rock, sort of, I guess. We played like two shows, and then finally, when I got to high school, um, was when I met Toby's brother Todd. I met Toby and Todd in high school my freshman year, but Toby's brother Todd Morris from H2O, and but before H2O, we were in a band called Alcra together for 9 years, put out a couple records.
Oh,
So I
okay.
kind of started in that. We kind of like I learned how to kind of play live, just playing live, because it kind of gets you to really focus in on what you're doing, especially when you're like 15, 16, 14 years old, and it kind of pushes you to like really zone in on what you're doing and, try not to mess it up, especially when you're first starting out. But then you're playing in front of people, and it really, I think playing live pushes you, in front of whether if it's 10 people or, 5,000 people. It definitely pushes you to like zone out everything except what you're doing right in front of you. Because
Sure.
I mean, nowadays it seems like that's hard to do in some ways because cell phones or whatever. But you know, but that was definitely like the beginnings of how I started playing was just I asked my uncle first, and then I kind of got my uncle to ask my mom, her brother, my mom's brother. Yeah, get him a kid, get him out of the house, that kind of thing. And that's kind of how I started playing. And then I got my first real kit was when I was probably 15, and then since then I've had two or three different kits. The pork pie kit is what I have now, but that's kind of a shrunken version of everything, I guess. I
Sure.
took some lessons when I moved to New York, 1990. We all crowd my band before so we moved up from Maryland to New York City, 1990. I took a little lessons in the city just to try different stuff, and I took like a jazz music class. I took a music theory class actually in Maryland with Rusty Pistachio from H2O.
Hmm.
Um, that's kind of a shrunken, like I said, a shrunken version of everything.
Okay. What was, earlier inspirations, when you were first learning drums, like was there a specific song or specific album that you're like, man, I would if I could just play something off of this,
Yeah,
were there specific things that come to mind?
yeah. I was really like so 1980. I mean, the Police were like the biggest band in the world, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
1980.
Hmm.
Um, and they were on the radio, but they had little elements of ska and punk and a little bit of reggae. I was really like Stuart Copeland. My middle name is Stuart. I kind of just cling to him. He was my guy. I mean, he
Okay.
still is, but Stuart Copeland, he was my first guy that I was really like, okay, I really like his style of drumming is different from everybody else, pretty much.
Mhm.
And he was my first guy that I kind of was like clinged on to, like um, I kind of sneak a little bit of Stuart Copeland and Family Tree a tiny bit. I don't know if
Okay.
the middle part. I sneak a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
And Rusty, one of Rusty Pistachio's favorite band is the Police too.
Okay.
And but so many other drummers around that time. 1980 was like Blondie's drummer. Clem Burke was great. Mark Ramone, of course, um, who we got to tour with a couple different times. Um, those were my early drummers, and then I got into DC punk and hardcore after that, but
Mhm.
and some new wave stuff. But he was my guy, my first guy. Along with Clem Burke and Marky and Tommy Ramone, of course.
Okay. All right. When you when you go, may it be live or you're at home practicing, what is your
Mhm.
go-to as far as your setup, your kind of bread and butter? Do you like your floor tom kind of long, level with your snare, your cymbals high, lower?
Yeah.
What's your ideal setup?
So I still use two rack toms. I know
Okay.
that's becoming lesser of a thing.
Hmm.
A lot of drummers are going to the single, the one rack tom, but I still like to use two. My phone keeps sliding here. I still like to use two rack toms. I use them a lot. They're not just the second rack tom isn't there just for a decoration.
Right.
I used to use two floor toms. I would have one on the hi-hat side and one on, the usual one on the other side of the snare to my right.
Hmm.
I use that sometimes for recording, but I stopped using that about 4 years ago. Just kind of shrunk it down a tiny bit.
Sure.
But I like them kind of like medium, a little angle sometimes, or a little flattish angle.
Hmm.
But I do something weird. I do 12, 13, 16. Most people go 12, 13, 16. I go 13, 12, 16.
I was gonna ask. Yeah, I've noticed that your kit
Yeah,
sometimes. So,
yeah, yeah.
what's the method with that, if any?
So yeah, no, I got that idea from I went to okay, this is gonna sound funny, but I went to see Fleetwood Mac. I've seen Fleetwood Mac twice in the last 10 years.
Okay.
And Mick Fleetwood does that. He has his bigger rack tom here for like songs like Rihanna and
Uh,
stuff.
oh, okay.
Yeah, because he almost uses it as like a floor tom. And then over here he'll use the higher one as an accent, but he'll use the 13 or the 14. I don't know what he has, but he has a bigger tom right in front of the snare.
Hmm.
He has a bigger tom, and he uses it almost like a floor tom. But then he also uses the 16, and I think he's got an 18, 16, 18. And my wife and I, we were sitting on the side of the stage at the Garden, Madison Square Garden, New York City, and I was like, okay, maybe try something like that, just randomly. And then I've noticed like a couple of different other drummers do it too. Abe Cunningham from the
I was
Deftones.
just gonna say, yeah, that was one of the other
Yeah,
ones that sticks out to me is
yeah,
Abe, and I've seen that for years. I'm
yeah,
like, why the hell is
yeah.
that?
I'm thinking like 1310 or maybe 1210. I think it might be 1210, but I'm not
Uh,
100% sure. But
oh, okay.
I'll use that one as a floor tom some songs too, the 13.
Okay.
Um, just to kind of go back and forth, either have an option,
Right.
the Mick Fleetwood basically is where I got the idea.
Yeah.
Totally different, not hardcore, not punk, but great drummer. He has his own style too. But that's kind of where I got the first idea of it. I was like, oh, okay. So you don't have to do, what everybody else does. You can kind of do your own thing too.
Right.
That's part of
Right.
it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of been a stigma for a little while as far as, with hardcore or punk, sometimes as far as like styles that would come in, everybody
Yeah,
wearing the same thing, or, somebody might have, this style guitar, and then everybody has that. Like, that's one thing I've
yeah,
always appreciated with musicians in general is just the individualism, because then you see
yeah,
stuff like that, and you're like, whoa, 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 okay, what is that?
yeah,
Or, it might be a jazz drummer or a jazz
yeah,
guitarist, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
why are you doing that? It's like, oh man, you got to
yeah,
check this cat out. Like, he knows what he's
yeah,
doing, and this is his mindset behind it.
yeah. No, there's no rules. I mean, as long as you know, as long as I mean, there's no rules on what like I have a China, which a lot of hardcore punk drummers don't have either.
Hmm.
I off to the same side as my hi hat. You don't see too many hardcore punk rock drummers using a China. It's more like a metal rock thing, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
But I started doing that in the '90s. I started using a China.
Okay, all right. I think and some of that too is kind of laziness. Like me, for instance, I just have the two toms just because you go up
Yeah.
and you set up your drums. And it's like, I don't want to set up another drum. I just want to get this shit up and
Oh, oh,
get going.
totally. Totally. Yeah. I know, and a lot of like when we fly in to do one-offs, like I'll make sure you have that second rack tom, right? Like because we'll pre-tell them what we want to use for equipment, And they're like, oh yeah, we got it. But nobody, not as many. I'd say it's 75-25 drummers don't use two rack toms right now. As far as right now,
Right.
a lot of drummers are going down to one rack tom, like a 12-inch or a 13-inch or even a 14 in some case. But
Mm-hmm.
but it goes through phases, I guess, too.
Sure, sure. I know, like the last time that I was recording, I guess our full length, I had two rack toms, and that was just more of a thing out of like having more of an option with recording. But live, a lot of
Yeah,
times it's just the one.
yeah. Yeah, recording you can like probably. I mean, everything I've recorded, I've had two rack toms just for different sounds, and I'll try one tom, and it doesn't cut or it doesn't go as deep as the 16 or the 18. I've used the 18 on some records too. On FTTW,
Oh,
I use the
okay.
18-inch floor tom. That's the only time I've used the 18-inch floor tom too.
Oh, okay. All right. So now, as far as your drum specs, your breakdown, let's just start with your cymbals. What are you going with nowadays?
I use Zildjians. I've been using Zildjians since 2002.
Hmm.
Um, I have an 18-inch medium crash, and then a 18-inch medium light crash, and then a 18-inch China. It's got the orange writing. Uh, I want to say China Boy, but I'm not sure. It's like it's got a orange writing. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. I
Zildjian
have it.
still you're talking?
Zildjian.
Is
Yeah. I
it
used to.
Oriental?
Yes, that's it. Yeah,
Okay,
I've been
sweet.
using that. Sometimes I use a 19-inch crash to kind of mix up. I have like different 19 and 18s, but I definitely go light on my right, and then in front of me I'll have like a heavier crash, like a 18 or 19, uh, and then the China, like the Oriental. I've been using kind of that setup for the last 5 years or so.
Okay. So what about your drum sizes? I know you mentioned that you use pork pie.
Yeah. I go 13 by not 13 by 10, 12 by 9, 16 by 16. I do have I did have them make them. I did have them make me two extra sizes, which I haven't used in a little while. I have a 10 by 8 and then a 14 by 12 that I used to use a lot on tour, but since I've kind of scaled down a couple, one floor tom, I use the 14 as a floor and the 16 by 16 as a floor. But since I've scaled it down, I've just been using 12 or 13, 12, 16.
Okay. You need to start crafting like a Neil Peart set, dude.
Yeah, I know, right? When it goes up the I've never used,
Yeah, but
I've never used more than two rack toms though. I've always had an extra size made just to have, just in case I need
yeah.
it, or like I did have one of them stolen. I did have a 12 stolen in we did have some stuff stolen in like 2000 H2O. We left our gear in a van overnight in Jersey City, and my 12
Oh
inch
yeah.
got taken. And one of Rusty's Mesa cab heads got taken. It was bad. We
Uh,
spent like the whole next day like driving around Jersey City trying to find it, but we kind of messed up. We got lazy after a show and left all our gear in the van, and next morning we come out and doors been opened, and we're like, you open the door and everything's gone, basically.
did
We
you have
got a
any
little
luck
lazy.
finding it?
Nah, and I looked on eBay
Uh,
for years. I looked on eBay because the guy from Pork Pie told me that was the only maple blue uh,
oh my
natural
God.
finish. And I looked for years on eBay and I couldn't find it. So who knows?
Oh
You know,
no.
you know what sucks even worse is that it's probably sitting in like a basement somewhere. You know, just
Yeah.
busting up. Probably not even used. Because what are you going to do with one rack tom? You know, you can't. You know, unless if somebody needs it or has like, what are you going to do with one random rack tom? That's the part that's a bummer.
Yeah.
I mean, the cab
I
you can
mean,
use the stuff, but But we messed up
Yeah.
too. We got kind of lazy, and we were. But you live and learn, I guess, like everything else.
Nah. In this instance, fuck their needs. Nah,
Yeah, I know.
not good.
We
So
learn not to leave our shit in the van after that. That's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, touche. Okay. So
Yeah.
now, what about your sticks? Are you heavy stick player? Do you like to keep standard?
I use a 3A Vader 3As. I've been
Okay.
using Vader since 1995, and Vader 3A wood tip. Like I pretty much I went to Universals for a couple years, like early 2000 or like 2001, 2002, but I've kind of just been with 3A for years. I have my own signature stick and the little H2O logo on the stick, and
That's what I was
I've
gonna say. I
been
thought you had a signature stick with them, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They've been really great. Like Chad Brindolini, he's been with Vader for 25, 30 years almost, and shout out to the Ballstones because they early in our career they took us out on a lot of tours, and Joe Royce, the drummer of Ballstones, he kind of directed me in the direction of Vader, and it's been great ever since. Like they've been
Hmm.
super nice, super cool. Like um, when I get back from a tour, I'll be like, I need more sticks. I'll shoot them an email or call them, and they've been super supportive. They haven't come in a little while. He's got kids now, but they come to a lot of our shows up in the Boston area.
Okay. Sick. What about your pedals there?
I've been using a old school DW 5000
Oh, okay.
single
Single pedal?
chain, single pedal. I did
Okay.
get a 9000 last summer. I haven't broken out of the box just yet, but if I would say probably the 5000s tend to have, well, being on tour, the 5000 has been on tour for about 3 or 4 years now.
Okay.
Um, and so I have this 9000 as a backup, and I think after this pedal goes, when who knows when it will, but eventually I'm gonna break out the 9000. I used it one tour about 2 years ago in Europe,
Hmm.
for a couple shows, and I liked it, and I got it when I got home from Sword, but I just haven't broken out of the box yet.
Okay. Is it just something to where like the 5,000 you've had for so long that you're just so comfortable with it?
Yeah, yeah, and they're really the 5000 is really good for fast beats,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like a real like it just responds back to me really quick, especially on our really fast songs, and
Mhm.
I like it. Like I like the 9000 when I use it too because it just has a different it keeps up with the speed that you need to play really
Okay.
fast stuff. And I liked it. I got it. I think that'll be my next move. I'll go to the 9000. I put
Okay.
skateboard grip
Tape.
tape on the bottom. Yeah.
Sick.
'Cause
Sick.
I'm always spilling water or sweat or Toby's throwing a bottle of water on me or whatever. So I use the grip tape helps. Like if your pedals are wet, the grip tape definitely helps for sure.
Okay. Okay. I
Yeah,
tried that once because I don't remember who it was that said that they did that, and I'm like, oh, sick! I'm gonna be like them and
yeah,
try it, and it didn't work
yeah,
out too well
yeah,
for me. I,
yeah,
as far as like, there's some people, that have,
yeah,
or like, you have water all the time, or you're sweating,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that can
yeah.
definitely be a good thing. But I remember I tried
Yeah.
that, and it was kind of a disaster for me.
Yeah. Certain shoes, like this is gonna get really like intricate, but certain shoes on it, like I use Saucony's or uh, Nike Cortezes or Nike running type shoes with little cleat things on the bottom. Those work, but other type of shoes sticks onto the grip tape differently.
Yeah.
Like Vans, you can't wear Vans on them because Vans don't have any really like they're really smooth on the bottom,
Right.
and so your foot could slide on it a little differently if there's water on it. But like Sauconys or Cortezes or like running shoes with little cleaty things on the bottom, like those stick into the grip tape better if they're wet.
Okay.
It's an
Okay.
overanalyzation of it, but
Yeah, hell yeah. No, that's sweet. I love it. I love, it's cool hearing this type of stuff. That's why I have these
yeah,
conversations. It's awesome.
yeah, yeah.
So now,
No, I've
last
had,
but oh, go ahead.
yep.
Sorry.
Well, no. I've had some situations where I've had like just full on water all over my foot pedal, and
Ugh.
so I know from code red emergencies, like where you don't want to stop in between songs because we go song to song.
Right.
You go, wait, I gotta fix my pedal, and no, you keep going.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
know like, an idea of what shoes will work on it, what shoes won't.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So, and last but not least, the old drum throne. It's definitely something that's looked over. Some people have very specific tastes to what their
Yeah.
throne needs are. What are yours?
So I have two pork pie thrones.
Okay.
Um, I have the banana seat and a circle seat, and I just
What
like the
I
pork
was
the
just gonna
pork
say,
pie.
what would you like better?
Oh, I've had the banana seat for a while, so lately I've been kind of getting into the circle seat. It's really soft, and as long as it doesn't spin, as long as it holds steady, tighten up as much as it'll go, I'm good, you know. Because I've had some shows or rehearsal spots where the seat's spinning, and you know, I prefer the seat to be held tight, and screwed in tight, and but the pork pie seats are my favorite. There's also like Gibraltar's got some good seats, and Tama's got some good seats, but I have two pork pies and I like those. So if I play a venue or if we fly in and there's one there, I'm like, yes, I have
Right.
I have another one on the West Coast that I use too, and so I always request that one from a friend of mine who I always uses stuff out in California.
Okay. All right. Sick.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's sweet. And it's one of those things too, to where like it kind of goes looked over, but playing shows and talking to
yeah,
people every once in a while. I've
yeah,
had certain people that, you forget your seat or something, you left it
yeah,
at home on accident, and all of a
yeah,
sudden they have one and it's got like the backrest on the back. It drove me
yeah.
nuts. I don't
Oh,
know if you've ever used one of those or not. It's I think an
I've
acquired
used
taste.
I've used them once at a rehearsal, and I was like, not for me.
No.
But I've seen some, like for instance, yesterday I was watching a NXS video randomly, random stuff. I don't know why. Like there's a new Michael Hutchins movie on Amazon that just came out, but the
Okay.
drummer used a seat with a back on it too. I was
Right.
watching. It was live at Wembley Stadium, like 1991. But I've never used one live. I don't think I ever want to use one live.
Yeah.
But no, I
Is
have
it?
seen him. I think Larry Mullen from U2 uses one too. He's had back
Oh.
surgery. He's had a couple back surgeries from what I've heard.
Okay. That
Um,
was another thing I
yeah,
was going to say too, is that some people, they have actually, like lower lumbar, they have back issues to where I know that
yeah,
they have to use something like that. And so,
yeah,
that's not a knock to anybody as far as,
yeah,
specific
yeah.
tastes, but I just
I
wondered if
think
you,
I think Neil Peart used one too. I'm pretty sure like the last couple of Rush tours, he had one of those. I know he had a lot of arthritis and stuff going on.
hmm
Um, but but I think he had one of those back seats too, with the back one.
Oh, what was your first kit when you were younger? Where did that come from? I know you hit on that a little bit.
Yeah, it was basically out of a Sears catalog.
Nice.
I think
Nice.
the second kit I got was like a Gretsch, like super generic. I think it was called like Nighthawk or
Okay.
something. I don't even know if they make them anymore. It was kind of shite. It was like you had to really screw stuff in really tight with a wrench, or else it would fall over. You know, and
Yeah.
and then my kit after that was a Thomas Swing Star kit. I
Ooh.
got that in probably 1988, 89-ish. And then I had that up till, I used that on tours up till the Pork Pie Kit in 1999.
Oh, dang. Okay. All right.
That
Nice.
was a good one. Mhm.
when you were younger too, what were some local drum shops and local music shops that that you like to go to for, if you needed cymbals or sticks or anything?
Yeah, yeah. And growing up in Maryland area, like about an hour and a half south of Washington D.C., there was a local place called Rail on Music, but they never really had anything. It was like they had some sticks and some nerds. But I would go up, I would drive when I turned 16. I would drive up to they're still around too. This huge like famous music store called Chuck Levin's
Oh, okay.
right outside of Washington D.C. It's in Wheaton, Maryland, and they always had. I got my first kit there, my first real kit there. They always had a lot of stuff. Like it was about 20 minutes outside of Washington D.C. Um, and then when I moved to New York City, of course, they had Sam Ash. There was a place it was 48th and 7th Avenue, New York City. They had like 5 different music stores. Not anymore, but
Oh, wow.
from about 1980s, maybe even earlier, 1970s, until probably recently. I'd say like 2010. 48th Street in New York City, they had all the music stores. They had Manny's, they had Sam Ash, a couple other little like smaller ones if you needed like a little piece or something, like a little drum part or a screw.
Sure.
But Manny's and Sam Ash were the two places in New York City. Sam Ash has moved down to 14th Street and 6th Avenue in New York City. I go there now if I can't get anything online, I'll go there. I know a couple of people who work there too. But those are the spots. I know Chuck Levin is still around because I follow him on Facebook or Instagram, and they're always having stuff down there.
Okay, sick. Yeah, that's cool. Now, as far as like local record shops when you were younger, just being a music fan in general, did you have specific
Mm.
ones that you like to frequent?
Yeah, unfortunately, those aren't around as much as the music stores. Unfortunately,
Hmm. Yeah.
um, but growing up in Maryland, there was like a couple smaller record stores, and back then it was tape shops. But um, there's one called Can't Stop the Music, where we grew up in Maryland. Um, there's still one around now down in Princeton, New Jersey. There's a huge one called Princeton Record Exchange.
Oh, okay.
Massive. Any type of vinyl you want. I don't know if they have 8 tracks, but I know they have like certain cassettes, CDs, music notes. Princeton Record Exchange is still that's a really good record store. Um, New York City, whew, there used to be a really awesome Virgin Megastore on 14th Street and 4th Avenue, or 3rd Avenue, or 4th Avenue, between 3rd and 4th. That's not around anymore. I used to go there all the time. I would spend hours at that place. Of course, Sam Goody's used to be like the mall spots.
Hmm.
Those aren't around anymore either, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I miss. Like I miss like just browsing at records because you can't do that now. You can do it online,
Yeah.
and Discogs is good,
Right.
but sometimes you would find like a random buy at a record store. I'd be like, oh wow, I've been looking for this for years. But now it's like it's tight, man. It's tough. Like there's not a lot of record stores that there used to be. There was one on like up at Hell's Kitchen that was great in New York City. I used to go to, and there was another one on the Lower East Side. A couple different ones on the Lower East Side, but I used to do that for hours. I would go just browse records and CDs and cassettes even, and but I think this summer I am going to take a trip down to Princeton Record Exchange because it's they just opened back up since the pandemic. They opened back
Oh,
up last week,
okay. Sick.
and they have everything you need, like any rare stuff, any bootleg stuff. Like it's crazy.
Okay, sweet. That rules. I know
Yeah.
as far as if you're ever like Midwest, West Michigan area, if you're ever coming
Yeah.
through, there's a spot in Grand Rapids. Do you know
Okay.
where that is?
Yeah, we
The,
played there before.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. There's a spot in Grand Rapids. I'm drawing a blank on the street, but it's called Vertigo Music.
Oh,
Definitely, you
okay.
go in. It's just there's tons of stuff, just rows and rows, and I mean, and all the guys are real, logical too, as far as just
Oh, that's
the
awesome.
knowledge and everything. So,
Yeah.
it's sick having that and that experience too of going into a record store and being like, hey, I
Oh,
like this band. Do you have any idea? And, you go into
yeah.
like a FYE and they're like,
Yeah.
Prince, like,
I know, I know.
no.
Yeah. There's a place called Generation Records in New York City that's great too. I go
Okay.
there. Like they're still open too in Greenwich Village. Yeah, I know what you're saying. They have a lot of rare stuff too. Generation. I actually got to go there too. I want to check that out. They just opened back up too. Everything's kind of like hit the 3 month point of this pandemic, and
Right.
everything's starting to kind of like we're doing okay out here with cases, thankfully, and a couple of things are starting to open back up a little bit again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, because it's been so crazy for New York and Jersey, especially
Yeah,
for you guys getting hit.
yeah,
I mean,
we got hit. We got hit hard from middle of March till probably the middle of May, early middle of May, and then we've been doing, knock on wood, we've been doing great since the middle of May. Like where I live, we've been getting single digit cases now a day, whereas 3 months ago we were getting 300 a day for like 6 weeks. But now we're down. I think it's a little out from where I live, but New York City was bad. Queens, Brooklyn, but it seems to have gotten better, and they're slowly opening up things, not rushing like some other states are doing. And
yeah.
it seems to be doing okay. I mean, you still walk around with a mask, and you be smart, and
Right.
restaurants have kind of opened outdoors. So
Yeah.
how are
Right.
you guys doing out there? How are you guys out there?
I mean, we're doing a lot of opening. It's a lot of the same thing as far as having masks on and with restaurants. But they
Yeah,
just recently started with like seating in restaurants,
I heard
and
that. Yeah.
just this last week, my band got booked for a fest in Detroit.
When
So July 10th.
this year?
Yeah,
This year?
like this coming
Wow.
month.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
so there's
Also
basically it
outdoors,
kind of
right?
sounds like what's
Yeah.
that?
Outdoor festival? Is it an outdoor
No,
indoor festival? Wow.
indoor. Yeah, yeah. Hey,
What are
hold
they
on a
gonna do?
second. This
Yeah.
if you have a little more time, the video is trying to cut me off. It's saying that we only have a
Oh,
minute left.
I have all the time
If
you
it's
need.
I'm gonna end this and then I gotta
Okay.
save it really quick and then I'm gonna start another one. We'll get back on the topic.
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right, buddy. I'll be right back.